comedian coming to the stage. You can catch him at fine comedy venues all over Los Angeles. Please, big welcome for Mr. Aaron Karp, everybody.
Give it up for Jenny. My wife and I just celebrated our 7-year wedding anniversary. Where are my married people at? All right, cool. Anybody have kids? All right, cool. So half of you are married with or without kids, and the other half of you are really happy. I'm glad I'm not single anymore. Dating in LA was tough because I'm short. I read a study that said short men live longer than tall men, and I thought, that's cool. But then I saw another study that surveyed single women and found that 97% of them would rather be dead than date a short guy. My wife and I have 2 boys. One is 4 years old and the other is 6 months old. Nice. And they're hungry and cranky all the time. All the time. It's like a Snickers commercial. But don't worry, you guys are gonna love them when you meet them. I was at the park with my son the other day, and I was watching him, and he was playing with bubbles. And he was so happy, these bubbles, and it's just soap and water. And then all these other kids came rushing over, and they were going crazy. And I was watching them, and I was thinking, you know what? The world would be so much safer, and there would be so much more peace on Earth if everybody played with bubbles. And you know how I know that? A terrorist in Afghanistan would never be like, Hamed, I'm going to blow up this car. Here, hold my bubbles. My single friends ask me what it's like being a parent. Having kids is just constantly saying, eat 5 more bites of your chicken, and then you die. Okay, I'll tell you what it's really like being a parent. Where are the single people at? Okay, cool. All right, so imagine, for the single people out there, imagine you're driving on the freeway on a Saturday, and you're in the fast lane, and you're speeding, and you're having a great time blasting your music, you're going to a party. That's what it's like being single. And then you look over on the side of the freeway, and you see a man in an orange vest picking up trash. Yeah, that's me! And you think, did he volunteer for this? It's so hard to be intimate when you have kids. My wife and I are just tired all the time. And when we do try to have sex, I'm rusty. I'm not gonna lie, I'm rusty. You know what my favorite position is in bed right now? Doggy style. You know why? Because it has all the pleasure of the missionary position, and I don't have to look at the disappointment on my wife's face. Hey, I'm not lying. You guys want to know what my wife's favorite position is? She's gonna kill me if I tell you. All right, it's when I'm lying on my side, facing away from her, so she doesn't hear me snore when I'm sleeping. It's so hard to be intimate when you have kids. You know what I tried to do the other day? I thought I had a good idea. I used my son to relay a romantic message to my wife, but it completely backfired. I whispered in his ear, tell mommy that I could stare all day at her big blue eyes. That's pretty romantic, right? Well, it started out that way, but it ended up being the most messed up game of telephone. I hear his little footsteps go in the other room, then 5 seconds later I hear this. Oh, really? Daddy thinks I have big Jew thighs? My wife and I wanted to honor our Jewish heritage, so we had brisses for each of our sons. Oh, in case you don't know, the word bris comes from a Hebrew phrase, which means, for all you can eat lox and bagels, yeah, I'd watch a penis get circumcised. I noticed something interesting during the circumcision. You can tell a lot about a man by where he stands during the ceremony. If he stands in the way back of the room, it means he gets queasy at the sight of blood. And if he stands right up front, right next to the baby, it means he should never be invited to your house again. There's always one in every family, right? I don't like family gatherings because I have relatives that are always asking me when I'm going to progress to the next phase of my life. Do you guys get these questions? When are you gonna questions? I have a 93-year-old grandmother named Edith, and she's the worst. And when I was engaged, she asked, when are you gonna get married? And then I got married, and she's like, when are you gonna have a baby? And then my baby was 1 week old. When are you gonna have another baby? It drives me crazy. It's not like I ask her about the next phase of her life. I will never be like, Grandma, when are you gonna die? Everything is so expensive. You know what I just read the other day? The average cost to raise a child now is $250,000. That's crazy, right? And $300,000 if you take them to Disneyland. My wife and I met with a financial planner recently to help us budget for the future. And the financial planner is like, well, what are your goals? My goals? Well, I have one goal. I want to save enough money to last through the end of our lives, but spend enough so our kids get nothing. The truth is, I'm really conflicted. Most of the time when I look at my boys, I'm really overcome with happiness, and I believe that everything my wife and I are providing them will make them great men one day. But other times, I'll stare at my 4-year-old when he's picking his nose with 2 different fingers, and then does a Booker puppet show, and I'm like, this is not worth it. Everything is so expensive. I was at the CVS pharmacy the other day just to pick up Sudafed, and the pharmacist was like, let me see your driver's license. And I said, why do you need to see my driver's license? And she's like, well, some people are buying Sudafed and cutting it up to make meth. I was like, all right, here's my driver's license. How much is it? She's like, $18. $18? Are you kidding me? It's cheaper to buy the meth to get the Sudafed. And with meth, I can clear up my sinuses and disappoint my wife for hours. After having a family, my perspective on life has changed. Let me give you an example. So when I was single for a while, I wanted to find someone so I would never be alone again. And then I met my wife. We got married, and I would never be alone again. And then we had 2 boys, and they're so needy. Daddy, feed me, play with me, wipe my tushy. I will never be alone again. And I can never go out. My kids are basically holding me captive. I can't tell if I genuinely love them or if it's just Stockholm Syndrome. You know what I'm saying? The only chance I have of getting away from my kids is when I do shows on the road. And that's the best, because there is nothing like getting hotel sleep without your kids. Being a parent and getting hotel sleep alone is like the equivalent of a prisoner getting a conjugal visit. In fact, I will do shows that no other comics want to do just to be able to sleep in a hotel by myself. My booking agent called me the other day, and she was like, this is a true story. She was like, the clubs in Atlanta and Denver are all booked up, but I have this other gig, but you're not going to be interested. Try me. She was like, it's a week-long gig in Anchorage, Alaska. You had me at a week. Where are the people that have been to Anchorage? Woo! I can't believe how many people there are from Alaska. That's crazy. Being in Alaska was awesome. I slept like a baby. It was dark all the time. Like the state border is just one big blackout curtain. And I came back from my trip and I called my booking agent. I'm like, you have to get me back to Alaska. And she's like, really? And I was packing at home and my wife was like, wow, those people in Alaska really like your comedy. I know, it must be all my great moose jokes. I'll tell you one story before I have to go. So, MTK. The last night I was in Alaska, something really incredible happened. So I was having a great set at the show, just like I'm having tonight, yeah. And after the show, I was hanging out with some local people, and they gave me some pot, just like you guys are probably going to give me after the show tonight, right? And we were just hanging out. It was such a great time. And then I got in my car, and I was driving. And for those of you that have been in Alaska, it's incredibly beautiful, right? The air is so clear, and there's these white-capped mountains in the background. And I don't know if it was because I was so well rested, or the way the moon was reflecting off of the snow, or the fact that I was really high. But in that moment, I had this like insane flash of clarity, and I was like, holy crap, a 20-minute call to Geico could have saved me 20% or more of my car insurance. That's all the time for me. Thank you very much.